Alright, there's a new video for 1VHT about the next paragraph, 5.5. This is about proportional and inversely proportional relationships. So I need to explain what that means. First I need to explain what ratios are. It's a bit hard to read here in the video probably. But a ratio is how much you have out of something. So I'm going to use a question as an example. Because here it says with exercise 65, write down the ratios of these numbers. We have the number 12 and 24. What this means, like for example, you have a class of 24 students and there were 12 boys in this class. That means that the ratio, 12 is exactly the half of 24, so the ratio is 1 out of 2. Now you write down the same symbol as divided by, see that? But you use for ratios, you use the same symbol. Also here in the book they give you an example. If you have a ratio between 72 and 64, for example, then you can make both of them smaller, so it's the same ratio as 9 and 8. Right. So what we need to have to do here is we have to make these numbers smaller. So it's a bit similar as to a fraction, because if I change this, the 27 and 18, if I change that into a fraction like that, you know that the top and the bottom can both be divided by 9. So then you have this. So this is the ratio. The ratio is 3 to 2, right? And for this one we have 75 and 15. So you have to figure out what can we divide both of these by. We can divide both of them by 15. And here you have 5 and here you have 1. And these two you can divide both by 8. And then here you have 4 and here you have 5. So this is the ratio. Sometimes you see ratios when you have a cooking recipe. Like for example you need 400 grams of sugar when you need 500 grams of flour, for example, to make a cookie or something like that. Right, so that's what we use ratios for. Here we have 30 and 54. You can divide both of them by 6. And then you have 5, and then here you have 9. And here we have 7.5 and 2.5. So you can divide both of it by 2.5. So the ratio is 3 to 1. Right, that's the ratio there. So this is how ratios work. And then the next question is, which one of the following tables are ratio tables? Now I do advise you to try these questions yourself first, right? And if you can't figure it out, then watch the rest of this video. But what this means is, here the ratio is 2 out of 4, right? And here if you double 2 you get 4, but 6 is not double of 4. So this is not a ratio table, because in a ratio table it needs to be the same thing. Like for example, just an example about making cookies, right? I don't know if it's actually true or not, but if you need 400 grams of sugar and 500 grams of flour, if I want to make twice as much, that means when I use 800 grams of sugar I need 1000 grams of flour, right? Now this is the same ratio. As an example, I started with the number of boys and girls in the class, right? If I have a class of 30 students and there are 17 girls in that class, right? If the class is twice as big, so it's a really big class now, and this is also twice as big, then there's the same ratio. So these are examples of ratio tables. And this one is not a ratio table, because if I do this one times 2, I don't do that one times 2. So this one is wrong. If you take a look at this one over here, if you go from 6 to 30, we multiply this with 5. It becomes 5 times as big. Now if this also becomes 5 times as big, which it does, then it might be a ratio table. But I also have to look at this over here. If I go from 9 to, from 6 to 54, I have to do it times 9. Well, this is also times 9. So that means that the second one is indeed a ratio table. And table number 3, if I go from 14 to 18, then this is times 2. Well, this is also times 2, so it might be a ratio table. If I go from 14 to 42, then I have to do that times 3. And if I do this one times 3, I also get 56. So this one is also a ratio table. And this one is a bit more annoying to figure out because it starts with very big numbers. I'm going to use the middle here. If I go from 17 to 51, then that's times 3. You can use your calculator to do 51 divided by 17 to get 3 if you want. And if you do this times 3, you get 57, right? And then if you go to the other way, I need to figure out how many times does 17 fit in 221. Like I just said, if you have difficulties with calculating something like this out of your head, then what you could do is you could do 221 divided by 17, and then it tells you that you have to multiply it with 13. Well, if this is also 13, so if you do 247 divided by 19, if that's also 13, which it is, that means that this is also a ratio table. So these are ratio tables and this one is not. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.